Hello and welcome to Speedcubing 101. I am Cube Mom, and I'm excited to bring to you this episode today. We actually have two guests. I'm grateful I was able to get the editing done for this one because it's the first week of school and I feel like it's back to work, back to routines and everything. I was as happy as a PR to be able to go through Costco last week, and it wasn't that busy, which I was shocked. I always feel when I leave Costco, I should get a shirt that says, I survived Costco. I hope you and your Cuber are doing well with your back to school routines and getting back into the daily grind of things. In today's episode, you will get to know the person I call Cube Mom Original. She shared on the last episode about the Ontario Championships. Her name is Wendy Nieuwland. And I also have a guest in the Cube News segment. His name is Matthew Marinick. He traveled from Michigan to Las Vegas to visit the Vegas Cup competition. Well, not just visit, he did compete. And he's going to share a bit about that. He's actually also known as the owner of Happy Feet Productions, which you may have seen on some of the YouTube live streams of some of the bigger cubing events. Just like with Wendy, you'll hear more of a get to know you episode with Matt in a future episode of Speedcubing 101. Right now, let's get to know Wendy Nieuwland.
So welcome to Speedcubing 101 today. Even though I call myself Cube Mom Official, I have a special person here who is Cube Mom Original. It is Wendy Nieuwland. She is from Ontario, and she's here to tell me about herself and how she got into this world of cubing and is a cuber herself. Wendy, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
And you're heavily involved in Ontario with the cubing community. It is actually the delegate, Sarah, who recommended that I talk to you soon and get you on here. How did you get into cubing? When did this all start?
So my son, Lucas, is the one who got me into it. But really, I would say he started learning the cube when he was in grade 5. And he had just seen somebody, he was in Taekwondo, and somebody at his Taekwondo just happened to have a cube. And he's looking at it, never seen one, never touched one, and was fascinated watching this kid solve it. And I think at that time, the kid could solve it in about a minute or so. And Lucas was fascinated. Mom, I saw this guy with this thing. He says it's a Rubik's Cube. And I'm like, oh, I know the Rubik's Cube. And so he's like, oh, I would love to try one. I said, well, we can go get one. I'm sure we can find one at Toys R Us or someplace like that. So sure enough, we get an original, a Rubik's Cube brand, Rubik's Cube for about $25, I think we paid for it at the time. And he took it every day. He'd go 2 or 3 times a week to Taekwondo, but he was really more motivated by this cube rather than the Taekwondo lesson.
Oh, interesting.
Seeing this fellow teaching him parts of it. So he would teach him 1 or 2 things and he'd be like, okay, I'm going to learn that. Go back the next time, learn another 1 or 2 things. In about a week or so, I think he could solve the whole thing, not knowing that there was videos online, not knowing anything at that time. But then, of course, everything snowballs and gets finding out about this, that. So he was a solver for about 2 years, till maybe grade 7, halfway through grade 7. And my sister had said to us, well, why don't you sign him up for some competitions? I'm like, oh, I'm sure. What? There can't be any competitions. She goes, oh, I bet there is. So she looks it up and sends me a link to the WCA. And I'm like, oh, who knew? There was such a world. And the fellow also who was the competitor at the Taekwondo also didn't know about competitions, but he was thinking about going to one. So that was just really interesting how they all ended up that. So we always call it Hale was his name, is the inspirer for Lucas to be a cuber. So that was really cool. So then Lucas started competing when he was just in grade 8. That's when he started. So that's back in 2018. And that was his first competition, and it was in Oakville, Ontario. I looked it up before we got on this podcast. So his single at that time for his very first competition was 15.6 seconds, and his average was 23 seconds. So obviously he'd learned more things at the time over time and through looking at videos online.
Yeah, so he had a lot of runway before he dived in and in and got into the competing side of it. Wow. So thank you to Auntie, first of all, That's very
Yes.
special.
And he gets all the credit.
You're seeing your child in grade 8 go into this. At what point do you decide you're going to help out?
Great question. So the first couple of competitions, I'm just watching, obviously watching him. But after we got to, I think it was probably already my third competition, and I was bored to tears,
Oh.
unfortunately, because it's just, there's nothing to do in between for parents. And at that point, when you're new, you don't know a lot of people yet. There's nobody really to sit and chit chat with or pass your time otherwise. I remember just before Christmas, bringing a box of Christmas cards and sitting there writing out Christmas cards on the back table, or bringing my laptop and writing a report for work. And I'm like, oh, I'm just not really enjoying myself here. I said, I think I'd enjoy myself more if I was into it. So then Lucas, he taught me how to be a judge. And then I thought, okay, well, I'll judge, and that's fine too. I like judging. But then I discovered running, and I really love running. And really, to be honest, the biggest reason why, two reasons. One, I didn't want to be bored. I wanted to be doing stuff, which was great. Number two, what everybody tells me why I do it is to get in my steps.
Yes.
You get in more steps than walking around Walt Disney World for doing steps when I'm being a runner. And number three is I really wanted to get to know these kids. These kids are fascinating people, unbelievably fascinating. And I love learning their names. I love learning how to say their names, pronouncing their names. And I just love seeing them be excited about getting a PR and all this sort of stuff. So I just found that it allowed me to build a connection with some of the cubers. And now I have really strong connections with many, many cubers from around the world, actually. And I've loved it so much.
Okay. Christmas cards, I guess you're not writing them, or if you're writing them still, you're doing that at home. You're not judging as much, but running. And now, how many competitions have you volunteered at?
So I looked that up too. Lucas has been in 76 competitions. And so since I didn't do the first 3, I'm going to go with I've done 73 competitions.
Wow. And where's the furthest you've gone?
South Korea to the World Championship. That would be our World's last year. 2023 is probably our farthest competition, followed by Denmark, the European Championship 2022. And then we've been all around the United States as well.
And so for everyone listening, I have talked to Wendy. We are going to do a future episode just on being a runner. And it is a dedicated episode to being a runner because Wendy can practically balance the cubes on her head as she's a runner. This is a serious topic that I don't have much experience. My cuber's been in, I think, I should know this, right? I'm supposed to know this. 8 or 9. And the first few, I watched as well. So maybe I've been a runner or a volunteer for 6, not 73. Like I say, this is Cube Mom original right here. I also know, because I saw in Oakville, as I was a runner for that competition, Wendy's sitting solving a cube. She is competing here as well. When did that start?
As all of your parent listeners here are going to know, every cuber has tried to teach their parent. Oh, it's so simple, Mom. Just give it a go. F prime, R prime, L, sexy move, Mom. Just do learn the sexy move. So just like you all, my cuber has tried to inspire me for so long, many years, but only recently I have said, okay, fine, I will learn. In another episode, we'll have to talk about adult learning theory, about why adults learn the way they learn, because it's very different than how these cubers have learned how to become cubers and really fast. So I got my very first WCA ID in 2023, November 2023. And I have to tell you all, my very first solve as an official competitor was a clock solve, actually. And I DNF'd it.
Oh.
It was a DNF, my very first one ever. And there was a lot of audience members watching. To be honest, everybody knew it was my first
right?
mom.
She's not running. She's sitting. She's got the timer on going, what? Oh, wow. So, you got all these eyes watching you, and then you DNF'd.
Exactly. And I got all these eyes watching, and it was a collective, when that happened and even Sarah Strong, who's our delegate OG, she's the OG delegate here in Ontario. She's watching from behind up at the scrambling table, and in the video that someone has taken of me, multiple ones, I think, but you can see her in the back sort of peering over, and I throw my clock down thinking I'm done. I'm thinking, oh, my time's pretty good. I'm like, wow. And then I look down, I see it's a DNF. I'm like, oh, so I just right away said, oh, DNF. And then everybody's like, ah. But you know what? It just goes to show even our new cubers, everybody gets a DNF. Everybody can get a +2, everybody. And you still recover from it.
Yes.
So anyway, I thought this was actually almost a good thing that Wendy gets a DNF on her very first solve.
You get it out of your system. And actually my cuber, his first solve 3x3 was a DNF. He was fine with it. He knew why. He knew right away. And then it was like, okay, everything can go up from here.
Exactly.
And Sarah, by the way, will be on the podcast too. Excellent. She's also on the hit list. Okay, so you've been to all these competitions and you've competed. Tell me some of your favorite memories competing or attending or helping.
Yeah, I have so many. That's the problem. I have so many amazing memories. I not only love to go to these, and I love supporting my kid, of course, going to these, but I enjoy them. I too enjoy them. I enjoy the parents. I enjoy the delegates. I enjoy the helping. All of it. I love it all. I'm in for all of it. I also don't mind traveling. On one of your previous podcasts, you were talking about people who don't want to travel to places. And that's true. There's many people who don't want to travel. I want to travel. I think it's an amazing opportunity to explore parts of the world that we might not otherwise explore. I was just here, Vancouver, for the Canadian Championships. And I've never been to Vancouver. So that was amazing. Reason to come to Vancouver and be able to look around a little bit, that sort of thing. Same with, I would have never gone to South Korea. And it was a nice reason to go to South Korea and see it and all it had, the wonders that it had. So I love those. Probably one of my most favorite to begin with competitions would probably have to be the North American Championships, the very first one, the 2022 in Toronto. That was probably one of my favorite ones. It was local for me and being in Toronto, but it was just so incredible to see people from Canada, the United States, and Mexico all together competing for this and having our finally Nations Cup. The same as how Euros runs, where they have all their different countries competing against each other in the fun, unofficial events. Those things are fun. It's fun to watch. So I loved being a part of that. And probably my next highlight would be the Great Lakes Championship this past year with Lucas, because he was asked by Timon Kolosinski, who everybody knows, to be on his international team. So it was Lucas, Timon, and Juliette Sebastian, who's the female French solver as well, who's really excellent in one hand. But the three of them were the international team. And Lucas was more nervous about that than it was competing for anything. He practiced more for that 3x3 race than he did for anything else in the competition, just because he felt like he couldn't let the team down. He knew he would be the wild card on the team. The other two would be super consistent at a really low time. So that was really fun to watch him do that and to really watch him actually sweat a little bit about a competition. So that was cool for me to see.
Yes, nice. Now, I think what we haven't mentioned here, now that you say this, because Timon is not just going to pick anyone. Can you share Lucas's current 3x3 PRs?
Yeah, his current, I've looked it up. His single is 6.57 seconds, and his average right now is 8.91 seconds.
Okay.
That's good for lots of people. It's not considered a super competitive average at this point. Averages are crazy in the world right now, and that's okay. And you know what? It's the same thing that we tell to parents and I tell to cubers, is that it's about yourself. How are you bettering yourself? Because you can't decide what Timon is doing. You can only do what you're doing and make sure that you're betting yourself. And that's no different than how the people who in this past Olympics just performed. The track runner can only run as fast as they they can
Yes.
run, and they can't control how the guy beside them runs. You just run as fast as possible.
Yes.
And it's the same for cubing. So I think it's amazing that once the cubers come into their own a little bit more and finally figured that out, that they're not actually competing against people, they're competing with people. I think that's a really nice mind shift, and yeah, just really strong, makes the cubers a little stronger.
Yes. And so another question I have would be then, how have you seen Lucas develop friendships and bonds over the years? Because he's been in this for a while now and traveled to competitions and obviously made friends with Timon as well.
Exactly. So I think that's what's so nice about the cubing community is it's really easy to talk with people. And it doesn't seem to matter if you're a young kid or an older, mid-20s, as I'm going to call it older, but they'll all talk with each other because they're all speaking the same language about cubing, right? And what they're doing. And the friendships just seem almost instantaneous. I would say that Lucas right now would say that 2 people who he met through cubing are his 2 best friends ever.
Wow.
But stronger friendships than high school or university, the 2 of his best friends, like they will be the people in his wedding kind of thing. They are these people, and he has always called them, these are his people. The cubers are. He gets them, they get him. It's just fantastic. And I feel like when we come into a venue, even when we're going somewhere else, we always know people, always. We know parents, we know the cubers, we know the delegates, again, because we've been around a lot, to be honest, but it just feels really nice. Even when we're going to someplace we've never been and don't expect to know a lot of people, we still end up knowing a lot of people.
Yes, I'm so new to but I think some of us parents who have new cubers can feel and sense that what you just said, is our future.
And it's such a nice, I know probably lots of people who have hobbies will say, oh, it's such a nice community. I can honestly say from the bottom of my heart, being a previous dance mom, a cheerleader mom, a basketball mom, the cross-country running mom, any of those other sort of mom-ish roles, that this cubing community is the most supportive community that I've ever been a part of for multiple reasons, but it truly is a blessing to be a part of this community.
I love that. Cube mom. We're fortunate to be able to be cube moms. We get to see this unfold for our kids.
And you choose as a parent to be involved, very involved, not involved at all, or ultra involved like me, I would say, because there's some parents that don't come at all, right? There's going to be one parent who never comes because they're busy with the other siblings. When there's the one parent who tends to come to everything. And then there's the parents who come in once in a while. And then as they get older, they get dropped off, parents leave, come pick them up at the end of the day. You can be involved as much as you want to be involved. And as you've seen, even though you've only been to a handful of competitions so far, you can see how easily it is to get really into it. Because you have a role there as well. You're not just there as a cheerleader. You are there being very immersed if you choose to be, but you also don't have to be. So I think there's a role for everyone, however they want to play it as a parent, supporting their cuber, not just paying their entrance fee and signing them up and driving them there, but also seeing if you want to have a bigger role, you can. And it's very much encouraged if you want it.
Yes. And all parents are coming, they're all in a different season of life. Some have aging parents where if they can have their cuber occupied, they can go take care of grandma, grandpa. Some don't have any grandparents around or family around. So the tasks that need to get done, where they need to focus and not be interrupted by children, they could get done during a competition. Like, no judgments here. We know there is life, and life can get in the way of a lot of things that you would love to do, like volunteer and help, but you just can't at this time. And yeah, I totally get that. But you're always welcome to as well, if you want to. I don't even know this, Wendy. Have you organized a competition before? Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the very first competition that Lucas and I organized, unfortunately, was for leap year, February 2020.
Oh,
So,
yes.
right after start of COVID. So we organized it on purpose on the leap day. So it was a leap year, leap day. So we made it all about Leap to Berry, it was
Okay,
called.
I
It
was
was
going to
here in
say,
Ontario.
was it in the title? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was in the title. And we thought, oh, we're going to do that and have it. And even though it's in February, maybe the weather won't be too great, but we'll do it because we think it's fun. And then we put fun facts around about leap day, leap year, what's it all about? And we just made a lot of fun of it. But of course, this was at the beginning of the pandemic, and we had 5 people cancel saying they were worried about what was coming, and they'd heard this, and the crowds were not to be, no large gatherings they thought they would cancel. That's fine. We had people on our waiting list. Cubing competitions are sometimes really difficult to get to here because they fill up so quickly in Ontario. They just do. So this was no different, filled up very quickly. And it was amazing organizing. I loved it. I did all the things that I know I appreciate about a competition when I go to one, how it's organized,
Can you say a
how
little bit
people are
more?
told about
Because
what's coming up.
we need more organizers. And we don't, right now as we speak, we don't have officially a competition announced.
Got it. Okay. So yes, organize a competition. I would suggest, though, you make sure you've gone to a handful of them first to make sure you have seen it, you know what to do, that you've judged, you've run, and what are these scorecards about? How do things get organized? How do we know when to call the next group? So you just got to pay attention a lot. And I think being a runner, you see the most, I would say, if you're helping. Being a judge, you don't see as much. So if you're thinking about running a competition yourself, I'd suggest being a runner. You just get to know a lot more about how it all goes and that sort of thing. And then you see from your perspective, what did you like about knowing when the groups are being called? If it says red, group 2, what did that actually mean? Was it easy to find red? Was it easy to know when group 2 was? Or how many people came up and said, what group is this? Is this group 3? Oh, I'm in group 5. Okay, you've got to wait a few more minutes. So I like to have a big screen on the background to show current group is red 2. Coming up next is red 3 or something like that. When it's possible, I really like to have that done because I just find it's easy not only for the cubers, but for the supporters, the parents or the grandparents who've brought them, and maybe it's only their first or second comp. They don't know when their group is coming up and don't know how it runs. So for me, I think the competition runs the best when the competitors know what's coming up and what's going on, and that's helpful to everyone. So I really like that. I'm really big on the colored tablecloth. I really love if I've got more than 2 groups running, a red and a blue or a green and an orange, something like that, so that it tells people green 1 is up now. They know where to go because the green tablecloths are very helpful to know where they need to go, and that the place where they're going to sit while they're waiting to compete is very noticeable and they know exactly where they're going.
Nice. Okay. That said like a experienced organizer. Can you tell me though, how much work is it beforehand, before the comp?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is finding a venue that you can afford and that has all the things that you need. So it needs to be affordable because let's face it, we're not charging people very much money to come. A portion of the money goes to the WCA and the other portion is meant to pay for the competition. You also need to pay for some other things for the delegates, for batteries and other things that it takes to run the competition. And it's got to have enough room for all the tables, all the chairs, the waiting chairs, the people sitting chairs. The cubers care the most about the chairs that they sit on, one, to compete, but more so the chairs that they sit on when they're just waiting and practicing and mingling with their friends. You need a lot of those tables because if you don't, then you don't get the mingling. And they have to just sit on a row of chairs or benches or something. It's not as fun for them. They don't enjoy themselves as much. And they'll tell you it wasn't their favorite competition. They will say their favorite competition is when there was lots of tables for all of them to not only sit at that table, but to go easily mingle with the next table and the next table. That's what they love. So in my opinion, having a venue that has lots of appropriate tables and chairs that you don't have to pay extra for. And it's also very helpful if the venue will set them all up for you. Many venues will let you send in a drawing of how you want them set up so that you can already picture it ahead of time. And to me, those are the biggest things. So getting that sort of secured and making sure that your delegate is agreeable to it, because they're not going to agree to a venue that's inappropriate or it's too many people for how big the venue is. Then the delegates typically are the ones that will put together the competition groups and all that sort of stuff. And I usually have them just email that to me, and then I'll print them and cut them and organize them. And I don't mind doing that because typically in Ontario, our delegates do that. They tend to be the delegates and the organizers, but
Here
really
too.
the organizers should be taking,
Yeah.
oh, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the organizers should be taking on more of those roles because I think the delegates have so much to do to begin with. And if we want to organize it, oh, let us do it. Go for it. We're good.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I need to organize one. We're looking.
So if you're going to have one out in very far wherever that's difficult to get there and there's not a lot of hotels around, you won't get a lot of competitors coming because one, they don't want to drive that far. Number two, if they do want to drive that far, there's got to be a place to stay overnight because if it's a long day, when it's a one-day competition, they typically start 8:30. They say they're going to end up 5, but it's usually more like 6:30. By the time you're dragging people out of there because they're still chatting with their friends, it's 7:30. And if you have a 4-hour drive home, you got to eat. Exactly.
Good to know all this information. So I want to ask you, since you are so deep into this world of cubing, what, from your perspective, are wishes or dreams that you have for the cubing world, for the WCA? Share it with me.
I think I love it as it is. I honestly do. I can't believe that such a successful organization is run by volunteers. That, again, warms my heart that no one is paid in this. It's all run by volunteers.
Right up
and
to
these
the
are
top
all
board members.
right up to Exactly, right up to the top. And they all have full-time, real big boy and big girl jobs. It's not like they're sitting around with nothing to do. These are people who have chosen to take on this role of volunteerism so passionately, and it's obviously comes from their passion for cubing and that they were, cubers in their teens and whatever. And now they've rolled on to now become parents. Some of them are parents. I just love this now. I heard a little bit at the last NACs, the North American Championships, about somebody was pregnant and somebody was expecting. And that just is amazing. But these are still people who are delegates in this world. So to me, I think it's amazing that this organization is still so strong and that it's an evolving sort of situation where people are getting on this train all the time. New people are flooding in. You see some of 17-year-olds becoming delegates, 18-year-olds becoming junior delegates. And I just love that. I think that's great. If I have an immediate hope or dream, I'd say I'd love to see them add FTO as an event. I would love to see that. So that's the puzzle called Face Turning Octahedron. So I would love to see that become an official event. I was very sad to see Solving with Feet leave.
Really?
When that left. Yeah, it was amazing to watch. It was so incredible. I just can't believe it. I just always thought that was just so amazing. It's like Blindfold. I think watching Blindfold solving is amazing, but the Solving with Feet was always something too that I'm like, wow. Believe people can do this. But anyway.
I think what I heard was the Solving with Feet was voted out, but I also heard that there hasn't been a new event added in 10 years. Does that sound about right?
That's correct. So I'd love to see it be FTO added, in my opinion. Now that the hardware is better, finally someone has come out with a magnetic puzzle. So it's one that's cubers are going to find very acceptable and be able to get good times on. And I think we're ready for it.
Yeah. Pull the strings.
Yeah. Oh, not for me, but I did run the unofficial FTO event at our Ontario Championship. So I did run that, trying to inspire people to like FTO a little more.
Does it run the same where you do 15-second and stuff again?
Yeah.
Okay. Wendy, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate everyone. You are very fortunate to have just spent your time with Wendy. If you see her, please say hello. Wendy, if anybody who's listening has a question, wants to reach out to you, are you okay answering questions from anybody around the world?
Absolutely. They can reach me on Instagram, Wendy Nieuwland, Nieuwland, Instagram, or they can even they could email me if they wanted, or they can reach out to any of the delegates and ask for Wendy's contact. And I'm sure that they would be fine to give my contact information.
All right, Ontario delegates, all 13 of you, you've heard it here. You can always give out her contact info whenever anyone's asking for it. All right, thank you again. Have a great rest of your day and happy cubing, Wendy. I'll see you, hopefully, I guess I'll see you at Worlds for sure, or maybe sooner.
Very good.
Let's get ready for your Cube News.
So today for our Cube News segment, we have somebody who was at the Vegas Cubing Cup that happened in August of 2024. It happened last month. Matt, you were there. Can you introduce yourself and let us know how that event went?
Yeah. So I am Matthew Mernick, and I own a production company called Happy Feet Productions. And I was at the Vegas Cubing Cup Summer, and it was a lot of fun being able to see top solvers like Max Park, and also top like big YouTubers like Soup Timmy was there too. And all the kids had a lot of fun taking pictures with him. I got to meet Cameron Brown, the owner of Speedcube Shop, who was there, and like Michael Chai, board director of the World Cube Association, was there, and I got to chat with him a bit and stuff. So it was a lot of fun being able to see all those people. Max Park, I got to judge him for all 5 solves of his 5x5 round, and that was a lot of fun being able to do that. It's always cool being able to see the top solvers solve. Max ended up getting like a mid-5 average, so it was really fast. We were happy about it, and I ended up winning the competition. So yeah.
So you weren't competing yourself in this one?
I did compete. I did compete for a bit, so I ended up making it all the way to 2x2 finals, which 2x2 was the cube I started with, and it's the cube I still love doing to this day. But
Matt will share more about that in a future episode. But yes, you made it. Congratulations for making it to the final of 2x2.
Yeah. So I competed 2x2. I ended up missing my second round of 3x3 because I was talking to other people during the time. I go there to these cubing competitions now is more as the owner of Happy Feet than as a competitor. No, I'm way past my prime in terms of speed solving at this point in my career. I fell off after COVID time, but yep. So cubing competitions, it's still a lot of fun to be able to compete, do some official solves. Had a lot of fun at 2x2 finals and doing that in Vegas.
So I'm in a Cubing Moms Facebook group. Of course I am, right?
Yeah.
And one of the moms who went, she was posting from there too. And I saw the shirts. There was like 4 dates. Does this happen 4 times a year? Does it happen every year? Do you know much about that part?
Yeah, so the Cubing Cup is something that Speedcube Shop puts on where, since they're headquartered in Vegas, they have like this Vegas Cubing Cup, and they had 4 different dates, and they have it where if you like podium in an event, you score points. If you break a PB in an event, you can score points. If you're able to like, attend like all 4 events, you score points. And whoever at the end of the year from these 4 events that happen over the course of the year, the last one's in November, whoever scores the most amount of points, they have like a prize pool where they can win like prizes from Speedcube Shop and things like that. So Speedcube Shop puts it on. I think this might be their first year doing it, or maybe their second year, but it was like a fun thing they did to try to cultivate the Vegas community. And now it was crazy because it was like 120 people at this competition in Vegas. Obviously, you have some people who like come in from out of town like me, but a lot of them are just local Vegas people, and a lot of them are first timers. They had like on-site registration, which is something I've never seen before. Like I've heard stories of it from like the dark ages of cubing, but like they brought it out because it's like Vegas is just such a like a new community, which is, it seems odd because it's a massive city in the United States, but they don't have a delegate or anything, and a lot of kids sign up for the first time. They just like show up to the door, and they're like just like handing cash and stuff, and they're like setting them up on a computer. I'm like, I didn't even know the system was still like in use, but yeah, it was really cool.
I've seen it over where we are. I've seen on site here and in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, it's not every competition, but if they allow it. Yeah. Okay, so you've been to a lot of competitions. What would you say about the Vegas community or the Vegas Cup that was different or unique than what you've seen in Michigan or elsewhere? Yeah,
so I think one of the things that are really cool, and this is something that, like, when I went to my first competition in Michigan, I was expecting just, even as a kid, I was like, all right, I'm expecting like to be like some kind of check-in desk for it to be like super bona fide. I get like a little lanyard or something like that. And none of that really happened. Like, I just kind of showed up. My name was like on a little card and stuff, and like, we just kind walk in, and that's kind of like I just realized, oh, this is a norm of like the cubing community. And over the years, it's gotten super more professionalized. Where even like local competitions in Michigan have gotten to the point where we have enough volunteers and infrastructure where they'll make cards and lanyards and stuff. So that's something that in like Las Vegas they already have, and it's like really well done. But another thing that I really wanted as a kid, I thought people would be vending and like selling cubes there. And something that's nice about having Speedcube Shop like in your basically local town is you can just go up and buy cubes from Speedcube Shop. They set up a little stand. So I thought that was just really cool because that's something I've always wanted as a kid, was to be able to go to the competition, buy a cube, and, you know, be able to just like go up and like, here's $20. Let me just get this Moyu cube or whatever and go compete. And it's like, that's really cool, I think, because a lot of times you don't want to, like as a kid, you don't want to wait for a new cube or something like that. And like, it's just like,
It's also like a souvenir. I got this
Yeah.
at the competition.
yeah. And they also had the t-shirts that they were selling too of the competition. And I think that was really cool also. So I think it'd be cool to see more vendors at cubing competitions and making it more like this convention-like feel. And that's where I think what Vegas did really was. It had more of that convention-like feel.
And Matt and I had some technical issues after that point, so I'm going to finish up about the Vegas Cubing Cup by sharing the fastest solvers. In Scube, Yuto Kono was fastest with an average of 4.72 seconds and a single of 3.23 seconds. In Pyraminx, it was Preston Schwartz with an average of 3.60 seconds and a best of 2.80 seconds. As Matt mentioned, for the 5x5, Max Park was the fastest with an average of 38.59 seconds and a best of 34.38 seconds. A couple more events. For 2x2, Dan Tran was the fastest with an average of 2.2 seconds and a best of 1.94. And for the 3x3, I'll say the whole podium. Dan Tran again finished third with an average of 8.78 seconds. Jeremy Boulambot, apologies if I mispronounced that, finished second with an average of 7.46 seconds. And Max Park was the fastest solver for 3x3 with an average of 5.45 seconds. Congratulations to all of the competitors at the Vegas Cup and all the competitions that have been happening lately. If you have not heard yet, we are having a competition, a 2-day competition in Vancouver, BC. Thank you to Ash Chen, Winston Chow, and of course our delegates, Heewon, Kevin, and Vian for organizing this one. The dates are October 19th and 20th. That's a Saturday and Sunday at St. George's Senior School. Make sure you go to the senior school. The junior school is a few blocks away. The events are Scube, Pyraminx, Clock, 3x3 one-handed, 3x3 blindfolded, 2x2, and 3x3. Again, this is a 2-day competition, October 19th and 20th in Vancouver, British Columbia. Registration opens on Sunday, September 8th at 5 p.m. So in a couple days, if you're listening to this episode, when it publishes, registration is open until Wednesday, October 9th. But my prediction is it will fill up long before then. If you want to stay up to date with competitions in BC or anywhere in Canada, I recommend you sign up for the Speedcubing Canada email list. There's a link to how to sign up in the show notes of this episode. When you sign up, you can choose which part of Canada you want to get emails about the competitions from. Thank you again for listening to Speedcubing 101. If you have any questions, suggestions, or corrections, please email me, cubemomofficial@gmail.com. That's cubemomofficial@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Instagram for updates about this podcast because I don't have an email list. My Instagram again is cubemomofficial. Please do subscribe to Speedcubing 101 and feel free to leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I'm excited to bring you more episodes. But in the meantime, happy cubing and go cubers go.